Ugh. Monica, reschedule my meetings. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good whatever time you're watching this. I am Diego Gallegos, the new commissioner of the newly rebranded New Look National Basketball Association, or as I would like to call it, the NLNBA. Now, I have purchased the company after former commissioner Adam Silver was forced to step down and sell the league after heavy pressure and distaste from fans, media, players, and owners. This video today will be the first look into the newly rebranded and newly rearranged National Basketball Association. So, without further ado, let me introduce you to the NLNBA. Sorry, Monica, give me a coffee. Welcome back to the Play by Play podcast. This is episode number 57, where today we will be looking at the recent plummet of the NBA ratings, pick out the problems, and lay out a full reconstruction plan on how we could potentially make basketball exciting once again. If you guys are watching this on YouTube, please feel free to subscribe, leave a like, and comment down below, as well as share with your friends. And if you haven't already, go ahead and follow us on all social medias, that being TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. All of the ads will be down below, and there will be a bar popping up right here. Where on those accounts, you will get to see my instant reaction to breaking news, as well as always stay notified for whenever the podcast posts an episode. And without further ado, the commentary of the NBA ratings and the new look NBA starts right now. So we're back. Welcome back to the podcast, everybody. Merry Christmas to you all. I hope that you guys all had a fabulous, fabulous Christmas. Hope that you were all safe out there enjoying the holidays with your families. And I hope that Santa came and bring you guys all that you wanted onto your list. But shifting from Christmas onto what has been likely one of the most talked about issues in the sports world over the past month or two since the NBA has started their 2024-2025 season. And that is the plummeting NBA ratings. I believe I heard a stat the other day that the NBA ratings are down 50% right now for the first time since 2012. I believe that was the statistic. The product is clearly slowing down. It is boring people, and it is leaving a lot of people, including the media, looking to search for answers, looking for ways to present to the NBA on how to change the game and make it better. And I believe that today I may have the solution to how to fix the NBA. I want you guys to leave your comments down below on what you think about my ideas. And I also want you guys to let me know about your ideas on how to fix the NBA, because us as a community, we need to figure this out together. So what are the things that are going wrong? I have listed, before we get into the league itself, I have listed what I believe to be four things that I believe wrong right now with this NBA league and what is causing these NBA ratings to plummet. Number one, the games are just not entertaining and not competitive enough. Number two, the games do not mean enough to the fans and to the media. Number three, games are not easily accessible to fans and to the media. And number four, there are no new bright stars within the NBA right now. And probably more specifically and better well spoke, there is not a new face that has taken the NBA by storm, as we have seen through decades of the league in transition. The NBA is in a major, major transition phase right now where we have a lot of the older stars, such as LeBron James, Kevin Durant, and Steph Curry, on their way out, and we need somebody to step up. So let's start from the top. Number one, the games are not entertaining and competitive enough. Now, this comes down to purely a couple of matters, but the biggest matter being the three-point shot. You've heard it. I've heard it so much. The three-point shot has officially landed and is officially ruining the game of basketball. I can't tell you how many times I have looked on stat sheets. I have watched the game and I have seen two teams combined averaging the upwards of 70, 80, 93 pointers per game. And the craziest thing about it is they are not making majority of these threes. When you take a look at a lot of the stats, many of these teams on a nightly basis are shooting 20, 25%, at most 30% from the line, from the deep line, if not below. and yet they still continue to shoot it. And because of this, defenses have become much more softer. The game is not as competitive, it is not as physical. There have been issues with referees calling soft fouls as well that the fans have had an issue with. And it just has made the game so much repetitive to the fans. But on the other hand, why blame the teams? Because when you look at it mathematically, shooting threes should be better for you than twos. So, in this, we're going to look at how to make the 3-point shot more difficult to shoot because at this point, you cannot take away that line. It has become integral to the game, to the culture of American basketball, but we need to make it much more difficult because right now, there is repetitiveness, there is softness. The game is just not fun anymore. Number two, games do not mean enough. Now, this goes in a couple of different directions. Number one, there are too many games throughout the season. Look across pretty in my opinion, when you're gonna listen to this, you're gonna see me go to a lot of examples at the NFL, and I'm not trying to completely replicate the NBA into the NFL, but you're gonna see me taking a couple of ideas from the NFL because the NFL is why games matter, why games are still competitive and entertaining. Because you enter that 18 game season was formerly 17 games and they extended it. Games matter. You walk into the NFL season, and if your team loses the first two, three, 4 games, you know that your team is in deep trouble and that they need to pick it up. The Cincinnati Bengals fans going 0-2, 0-3 to start off the season this year, that was a massive deal to that culture. It was a massive deal to the football community because we were looking at them saying, holy crap, this team is on the real downfall. They need to pick this up. And even still, they are still in the running because they have had to go through intense game after intense game after close game to pull out wins to finally get back into the picture. And now that we're down the stretch of the NFL season, we are looking at these next 2 weeks and saying that they are the most integral weeks of the season. That is what gets fans interested. But as NBA fans, how many times have we looked at this 82 game season? How many times have we started 20, 40, 60 games in? And we have shrugged it off when one of our team loses because we go, we still have 60 games left. We still have 40 games left. We still have 30 games left to make up our deficit. Even if you are at a deficit where you are behind 10, 12 games to get into the playoffs, there is still plenty of time within the NBA season to make that up. And because of this, it makes matchups less meaningful. You get matchups such as the Nets and the Wizards, which nobody really cares about. And moreover, it makes games much more insignificant because sure, you want your team to win a game every single night that they play, but you're not stressing if they do. And that type of lack of intensity is what is pulling fans away from the NBA product. Number three, it is not easily accessible to fans. I can't tell you how many stories I have heard from people that have bought the NBA League Pass specifically to watch their favorite team, and they still cannot do it. We need the NBA to be under one network umbrella or a plethora of network umbrellas, but be under one pass. If you get the full NBA League Pass, you should be able to watch every single game. You should not have to go ahead and get an extension to the league pass to watch your favorite team. I had a show the other day. It is something that we were seeing on a worldwide scale. I had a show that I really wanted to watch the other day. I have Amazon Prime. It was on Amazon Prime. I went to go look for it. I found it. I went to play it, and it said, you need a subscription extension from the network that made and aired the show to be able to watch it. That is absolutely ridiculous, and it is the exact formula that the NBA is following. Imagine if you went to a restaurant and you paid for, let's say, a hamburger. You pay $10 for a hamburger. The waitress goes back, she puts your order in, they make the burger. They come around and they tell you, here's your hamburger, sir, for $10. But now you need to pay an extra $5 to be able to eat it, or we're going to take it to the back and you're not permitted to eat it until you give us that $5. What's the point of paying for the food in the first place? And this is exactly what the NBA is having issues with right now. And number four, most importantly, no new stars, or more specifically, no new face of the NBA. If you look through sports history, the most successful leagues have their poster boy at the front. If you look at the NFL, it's always been their quarterbacks. You had Montana, Steve Young, you had Terry Bradshaw. Once those guys got older, John Elway as well, Dan Marino. Once those guys got older, behind them was Peyton Manning, was Tom Brady, was Philip Rivers, was Drew Brees, was Eli Manning, Ben Roethlisberger, Matt Ryan, yada yada yada, Cam Newton. As those guys began to get old, as those guys play began to decline, as Tom Brady was pretty much the final nail in the coffin for that generation of quarterbacks. Behind him came Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen. And the NFL right now is doing a great job because they continue to have their poster boy quarterbacks, their biggest stars, behind their product. They are marketable, they are good looking, they talk really well, they talk trash sometimes, and they are the best players within their league. If you look at the NBA, and the 60s and the early 70s were dominated by Bill Russell and the Celtics, Wilt Chamberlain and the Lakers. Once those guys got older, you started to transition into guys such as Kareem, Julius Irving, Moses Malone. As soon as those guys began to pull off, you got the heated rivalry back again with the Celtics and the Lakers between Magic Johnson and Larry Bird. Once those guys began to age, Larry Bird retired early, Magic Johnson got sick. You had Michael Jordan there, a generational talent that changed the scope of the league. Once Jordan retired, you had Shaq and Kobe. You had who else could I pick out? Alonzo. I'm just throwing out names. Alonzo Mourning, Patrick Ewing, David Robinson, Tim Duncan, and later on you had LeBron, Curry, KD, which are the current stars right now. And at the current point that we are at within the league, there are not guys behind these older guys such as LeBron and Curry. Remember, LeBron probably only has 1 or 2 years left in his career. Curry said he's coming to the end. Kevin Durant is the most likely guy that's probably going to stay for the longest just because he's the youngest, but who knows how long he has left. Harden's old, Westbrook is old. And behind them, we just don't have the marketable stars to put alongside the brand to put up on a poster and advertise for us. So now we don't have the stars and we do not have an entertaining product. Why do you think the ratings are going down? The five guys that I would personally pick out as the best players in the league, or the guys that are probably most likely to lead the league, you have Giannis Antetokounmpo, Nikola Jokic, Jason Tatum, Luka Doncic, and Victor Wembanyama. What's the issue with that list? Well, for starters, we're looking at an American starter product. 4 out of the 5 of the players that I just listed are not American. They're European. Jason Tatum is the only American-born basketball player on that list. Nikola Jokic, Victor Wembanyama, Luka Doncic, Giannis Antetokounmpo, European. What does that mean? Number one, they play a different brand of basketball. They are not Jordan or LeBron that is going to come in and score 30, 35, 40 a night. They definitely could, but they're more humble. They pass the ball a lot more on the court. They're more team driven. They're not a selfish driven villain that is going out and putting on great performances. I just mentioned their character. A lot of them are very humble. They don't talk a lot. Nikola Jokic, he has an issue. A lot of the times he looks like he doesn't even want to be in the NBA at certain times. He's asking when he can go home after the NBA championship, not even excited about it. That depletes the reward, the entire reward of the league itself. Giannis, he's been losing a lot. Luka Doncic, he hasn't really won anything in his career, although he's been great. Victor Wembanyama, probably a little bit too young, probably still has 2-3 years left in him before he becomes the definitive best player in the game and top of the food chain within the NBA. And Jason Tatum, he is just not real enough. All of the we did it during the finals, all of the trying to force a Kobe like photo in the locker room, it is not genuine and it does not sit along with the fans. The NBA needs a person that can talk, that is marketable, that can back it up with his game, who is American bred, who's been bred in America, and can come out and take this league by the reins. I have mentioned Anthony Edwards so many times. I believe that he needs to be in a bigger market. The Minnesota Timberwolves right now, especially after trading Cat, it's not looking great, especially offensively. They're due to plummet. And Anthony Edwards, if I were him, if I was looking out for his career, when he hits free agency in about a year or two, I would be looking for him to go to Chicago. I would be looking for him to go to one of the LAs, maybe Miami, especially if they trade off Jimmy Butler. Go to a market where you can become a star. And if he can, Anthony Edwards will be the perfect Jordan like villain to come in, swoop, and take over the league. He is marketable. He talks a lot of trash. He's a great player. He's American bred, went to college in Georgia, had a great college career, number one overall pick. The story is all there for Anthony Edwards. It is on him to make him a generational star and the face of the NBA. But with that, enough discussing about the current scope of the NBA. Let's take a look at what are my ideas to fix all of that. Welcome to the New Look NBA, as I had mentioned earlier. Thank you, Commissioner Gallegos. So, for this league, what I have decided to do is I have added in the two expansion teams that are supposed to be added in either year 2025 or 2026. That is the Seattle Supersonics, and that is the Las Vegas expansion team, most likely. In this video, I have called them the Las Vegas Diamonds for simplicity. I have moved both of those teams into the Western Conference, and you'll see what I mean by this in a minute. I have shifted over the Minnesota Timberwolves over to the Eastern Conference. It simply just made the most sense over Memphis because it fit the closeness of travel for all of the teams combined. I have put each conference as an umbrella conference. What I mean by that is think of the way that the NFL does it. Sure, you have the AFC conference and the NFC conference, but in the end, you sort by division, and the division winners lead the conference within the playoffs. So, for example, there are four divisions within the Western Conference umbrella. That's in the playoffs where they will be standing. But if you go ahead and look up on Google NBA standings, each team will be ranked within their division. There are four divisions with four different teams in them. And again, I did this mostly based on the closeness of travel. So it is more light and easy on the players. And each division has a name that corresponds or has a theme to each part of the country geographically. You'll see what I mean. I wanted to try and make this a little bit fun. I didn't want to just name them, Western Conference North or Western Conference West or whatever. Did not want to do that. I wanted to try and put themes to each conference. And I will go through them one by one and I will show you what I was thinking. There are a little bit of kinks. There are some things that will move around. I will show you those when they move up. But without further ado, let's go to the Western Conference umbrella. Let's go to the four divisions within the Western Conference. So here they are, our four divisions within the Western Conference. We start off with the Coastal Division. These are the teams that go along the coast of the Pacific. I almost named it the Pacific Division, but I did not want to I wanted to try to not to copy anything within the current NBA right now. The Coastal Division obviously carries all four California teams. I believe that that made the most sense since they are all the closest and they are within the same state. I felt that they should all be together. There is the Great Basin Division or Great Basin Division, which is basically a characterized desert within the northwest of the country. It covers parts of Utah, parts of Nevada, parts of Oregon. I believe it also goes into a little bit of both Arizona and Colorado. But because of that, I put the Utah Jazz and, of course, the newly rebranded Las Vegas Diamonds into there. You also have the Portland Trailblazers, as it does sneak into Oregon and thus Portland, Oregon. And because of this, because Portland and Seattle are so close, because I feel like in any relocation or expansion franchise that would come in with a Seattle team, they would 100% be in a division with the Portland Trailblazers. So I went ahead and put those guys beside each other together. Then we have the Dust Bowl division. The Dust Bowl was a phrase, I believe, during the Great Depression within the deep southwest of the country, where there was obviously a lot of desert, a lot of dirt. That covers places such as Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado. I also believe a little bit of Utah, Texas, and Oklahoma. Now, this is where a little bit of the kinks or the quirks come in because you have the Nuggets, you have the Thunder, you have the Suns. Those are all within the Dust Bowl area. And of course, you also have the Dallas Mavericks, which do fit that description as well. However, I thought it was a little bit weird that all of the Texas teams were not in the same division together, but this was the best that I could do because the both the New Orleans Pelicans and the Memphis Grizzlies are pretty far out east, and because I could not put them in the Eastern Conference, and because I was trying to limit travel, because Houston and San Antonio are much more southeast of the Texas border, where Dallas is a little bit more north, they were geographically the closest to New Orleans and Memphis. And because of this, I went ahead and named their division the Deep South Division. Of course, Louisiana and Tennessee, part of the South. And then you also have Rockets and San Antonio, which sometimes Texas can be categorized as the South. So, again, a little bit of molding that we can do around there, but these are the teams that were likely closest within their division. And what I like about it is I think that you have some pretty solid rivalry going on here. You obviously have Clippers, Lakers, you have Nuggets, Thunder, which has become pretty much a rivalry, Nuggets, Suns, Nuggets, Mavericks. What else do you have? You have Rockets, Spurs. I believe that the Supersonics and Trailblazers would grow a big rivalry. So you have some geographically close rivals within this, and I think that it will end up working out. And as of right now, pretty balanced in my opinion. If you look at Coastal, Lakers, Kings, and Warriors, are kind of in that middle to top area. Clippers are struggling a little bit. Great Basin Division. You do have two expansion teams, which is a little bit, but hopefully they'll come in balance. And because they are bigger markets, I believe that they will grow and get bigger stars and franchise players that would want to be there. Nuggets, OKC, Suns, Mavericks. That conference is absolutely stacked. Then Deep South. You have a couple of mid teams mixed with some more top heavy teams, such as the Rockets. The Spurs in the future will be good. Memphis is in that middle area, and then the Pelicans just been plagued by injury, which is why I think they have been pretty bad this year. Now moving in to the Eastern Conference umbrella. Four teams, four divisions once again. We start with the Polar Division, the division that I categorize as being up in the upper northeast, where it is very, very cold. This was a division that I would have liked for the Toronto Raptors to be in. I was potentially looking at switching the Raptors and the 76ers because, of course, the Raptors are much more north, and the 76ers, if you look at the division below, are much more they are in Pennsylvania, obviously, so they are in that Rust Belt categorized part of the country. But I did not really want to destroy rivalries such as Sixers Knicks, Sixers Celtics, and such that. I wanted to keep that true, so I wanted to keep those four big markets together. So Polar Division, you have the Celtics, the Nets, the Knicks, and the Sixers. Thought that was good. The Rust Belt Division, of course, you have Detroit, that's stationed in Michigan. You have Cleveland, which is a part of the Rust Belt in Ohio. Toronto's in there. Kind of just had to go there because of where it's placed. And then Washington, also somewhere that kind of had to go in where it was placed. But it is Maryland is very close to that Rust Belt area, just around southeast of Pennsylvania on the map. The Sunshine Division is also a division that I considered calling the Deep South, but of course, I didn't want to have two divisions called by the same name. But of course, the Sunshine Division coming from those two Florida teams with Miami and Orlando, big time rivalry there. Georgia as well. Georgia's a big time Sunshine State as well. And then the Charlotte Hornets, which were once again just the closest to the three teams. Also, a team that is also a state in North Carolina that is pretty characterized within that southern region, but I think that that works out. And then finally, that Midwest division, kind of in the middle of the area, Midwest, Mid-East, but they don't really have a characterization for Mid-East, but kind of that middle area of America. You have the Chicago Bulls in Illinois, Milwaukee Bucks with Wisconsin, which could have also gone into the Rust Belt division, Indiana Pacers in Indiana, and then, of course, the Minnesota Timberwolves within Minnesota. So those are the 8 divisions. I tried my hardest to make it 2 divisions within each conference and just having 8 teams, but geographically, I found out that the NBA right now is an absolute mess. Teams are scattered around, and even the divisions sometimes currently do not make any sense. But I felt that these were the best to put rivalry and to make things easier on the players. Now, the rules for this new look NBA is what we get to next. So these are my ideas on how to mix the league. First thing is that games do not matter and they're not entertaining and competitive enough. We need to make these games matter. We need to make the season shorter for teams and shorter for fans. So we're going to change it, halving the season in half in 40 total games. Now, I will admit, this is not likely a realistic strategy. The NBA will likely never go down to 40 total games. They probably will never even decrease their games. If not, they'll probably increase their games, if anything. But if Adam Silver really wants to make a big time change, this, in my opinion, is the best way. Because also, I feel like we know pretty much 20 or 30 games within the NBA season who the top teams are going to be and pretty much make out what the the bracket or the standings of the conference is already going to be within the first 20 to 30 games. We know who the better teams are, and we know who the teams who are going to be in the lottery and already a fourth through the season. So I felt that 40 total games halfway through the season, already knowing those teams were good, makes things more intense, make things more meaningful. So with these 40 total games, each team will play 28 games played outside of their division, which means that they still play each team within the league once. I felt that this was fine, just simply based off of you get a lot of interesting matchups. Everybody gets to see every team come to their city or to their town. It just makes things the most fun, and it still gives us a reasonable amount of games. Because while I think that the NBA definitely needs to decrease with their total games, I don't think that it's necessary to go down to 18 games like the NBA, like the NFL, excuse me. That is far too less. So you'll play 28 games out of your division, and then you will play 4 games against each divisional opponent, making 12 games total. 28 plus 12, of course, is 40. Again, because divisions don't matter right now, I wanted to find a way to really, really make those divisions count. So I've kind of dissolved the conferences a little bit, and I've made more games against divisional opponents. These will make more rivalry within the game, which once again makes more intensity and more competition within each single division game, and it will make divisions finally matter. And that's because in those divisions, division winners will earn top 4 seeds by their records. So think about NFL. So, for example, if the Eagles win the NFC East and they're 13-2, but the Falcons win the NFC South and they're 10-7. I just made up random records. I'm sorry. 13-4, but the Falcons are 10-7. The Falcons will be the number 2 seed and the Eagles will be the number 1 seed. So the same thing within this. If you are the top of your division and you're, let's say, 20-20, but the other guy is 30-10 and they top their division, then they are ahead of you. So division winners earn their top 4 seeds by their record. And then, of course, following that, there will also be 4 other teams that did not win their division will make it within. And that, of course, once again, is by record. I did not abolish the play-in within this league. I kind of went back and forth with it. I didn't like it because once again, I think that it adds more games, more unnecessary games because most of the time, 10, 9, 8, 7 seeds, they're likely going to lose pretty handily within that first round. But also, I wanted to kind of become even within the realism of having more games for the NBA to play and giving them more time to make more money. So I put that within this, and you'll see kind of how I fixed it when it came to the offseason side of things in a moment. So division winners, top 4 seeds by record. There are then 4, or I guess in this case, 6 other teams that get in by their record. Playoff series are now much shorter. So the first round is going to be best of 3. So the first team to win 2 games. I felt this was fine. The first round is not very entertaining for a lot of NBA fans. I don't need to see 1 versus 8, 7, 4 times. I don't need to see 2 versus 7 4 times. Sometimes I don't even need to see 3 versus 6 4 times because normally the top seeds are going to be winning that. I think that this makes it much more likely for more upsets throughout the playoffs. It makes it much more easier for an 8 seed to upset a 1 seed. And I also feel like, once again, shortens the season, makes playoff series much more intense and much more entertaining for the fans. The conference and semifinals will increase to best of 5, so there's going to be the first to win 3 games, and then the final series. This is the final game. The 2 best teams within the league. We have to go best of 7. The first to win 4 games. We have to know definitively who the best team is within this. And in this case, in this new format, I think that it works because you now have 42 less games within the season. You now have, I think that I counted it, I'm trying to think off the top of my head. So that'd be 4. You now have 8 less games within the playoffs. That is 50 less games total. You definitely have players much more energized. You have teams more ready to play this long 7 game series at the end. And that's another important thing. With this 40 total game season, you will avoid back to backs. So players can play in pretty much all the games. There should be no reason for players sitting down, barring an injury. It should be a much more lighter schedule, lighter travel on the players. And so you should not have Joel Embiid, Paul George complaining about back to back games and having to sit them. They can play every single game. The season will likely now span, I believe it goes from November to June. It should probably span from like November to February, November to January. Much, much lighter schedule on the players and makes games much more intense for the fans. I'm going to continue to reiterate it. If I'm repeating myself, I apologize, but this is the main plan for this format. A couple of other things next up. The 3-point line has now been extended a foot out. This was a suggestion made by Colin Cowherd on his Fox show, The Herd. And I thought that it was a really interesting idea. So now that you have extended it a foot out, the line now goes out of bounds. So corner threes are no longer around. Once again, this is just making it more difficult for players to shoot the three. It is allowing players to drive to the basket a lot more, to move the ball a lot more, to make basketball what it is once again, which is a team game, not having repetitiveness, having much more physicality, getting down in the paint and scoring hard-nosed layups, dunks, floaters, mid-range jumpers, trying to eliminate the three-point line as much as we can without taking it out completely and ruining that fun aspect of it. We're not trying to have teams averaging 80, 90 threes combined per game. We're not trying to have teams by halftime have 90, nearly 100 points and ending it with 140. This is not the All-Star game. We want to keep those scores as low as we can. Adam Silver, more games doesn't equal more entertainment. More offense doesn't equal more entertainment. People want competitiveness. They want physicality. They want to see intensity. They want to see rivalry. Shortened season will allow the players to be more healthy, more happy, and less of a 3-point emphasis on the game will make things much more competitive. Now, moving to things that are not on the court. When it comes to the offseason, the bottom 10 teams are entered into the draft lottery. 11 through 14 now go by the record. I did this because 11 through 14 are obviously within the play-in. If you're making the playoffs, no matter if you're a play-in team or not, if you're playing playoff basketball, you should not have a chance at the number 1 pick. I think that this is better because number one, you do not ruin the lottery aspect of it, and you do give 1 through 10 still a chance. Because I was considering going more like the NFL, where they just do it by record, but I didn't want to copy everything from the NFL. So this is kind of a healthy medium between it, but it also gives the bad teams towards the bottom of the league much better odds at getting that number 1 overall pick, making their teams better. We don't want to see the Charlotte Hornets struggling for 20, 30 years of their franchise, like we talked a couple episodes ago, of being successful. We don't want to see the Washington Wizards over the past 5, 10 years being terrible. We want to see bottom teams rising to the top. It's one of the most satisfying things that I see in sports. Seeing teams such as the Houston Rockets building a young squad and now being the 4th, 3rd seed in the West and competing with some of the top Western teams, that is great. And this will help them a lot more. Now, I put that the salary cap is now capped at $100 million. I did this to help diminish super teams and also force management to make more tough decisions with their rosters. That can kind of be changed a little bit. I kind of did 100 million as kind of a benchmark. I think that it may be needed to be raised a little bit. These players are already paid really great. We need to make it much more difficult for GMs to manage their teams. And we do not want Dwayne Wade, LeBron James, and Chris Bosh all on the same team again. We need to help management focus more on developing young stars because, of course, like I mentioned, young stars attached to the product are what makes the league better. So when players retire, we can bring in the new stars right away. This is one of the ways that that is going to be able to be implemented because talent will be spread all throughout the league. Teams will have to develop guys off the bench. Those guys will get better and they will be able to help out our league product, and things will once again be more competitive and more intense. And finally, all NBA games will be televised or streamed under one umbrella. Now, I put here in parentheses that my vote goes to Netflix. I know that Netflix is doing a lot of different sports streaming recently. They obviously had the Jake Paul and Mike Tyson fight. They recently just aired the Ravens Texans game, I believe, yesterday for Christmas, which that was super interesting to see. They are obviously getting more involved. I think that Netflix is more of a general thing that most people have. The subscription is really easy to get. It's not too expensive. You can see all your NBA games. You don't have to get any subscription extensions. You don't have to go through any loopholes to see your favorite teams. You buy Netflix. Hell, if you want, you could even buy Netflix and then have them buy an extra little extension for the NBA League Pass. But once you get that League Pass, you have all 32 teams, all 40 games on Netflix streaming throughout the day. That is it. Do it how the WNBA does it. You can always see WNBA games. You never have an issue seeing a WNBA game any time of day, any day of the week. That is how the NBA should do it. And that is my idea for this new look NBA. Let me know what you guys think about that. Is it a good idea? Is it a bad idea? What kind of ideas do you guys have to switch up the NBA? And dang, I had a wet thing in my hair for like this whole time. What do you think about that? What ideas do you guys have for the new look NBA? What would you like to see? Are you going to continue watching the NBA? Are you going to continue to have it pass it by? This is a great sport. It's a great league. I would hate to see it continue to plummet. I don't think that the NBA will ever become unwatchable, but I definitely think that if they don't fix anything, fans are going to get angry and things are going to start to get worse. Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode. If you guys are watching this on YouTube, please feel free to subscribe, leave a like, and comment down below, and share with your friends. And if you haven't already, please feel free to follow us on all social medias, that being TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. All the ads will be down below, and there will be a bar popping up right here. Without further ado, guys, that's all from me today, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.